As of the time I started writing this script, I think I started this in early September, and oh my gosh, this video is coming out in December, hopefully. Pokemon Emerald Sea Glass was like the big, hip ROM hack of the time. So the correct thing to do is to capitalize on that immediately and do some kind of challenge run on it. I mean, I've been playing it non-stop and posting all my final teams on Twitter for like the past month, so I'm very knowledgeable of a lot of the changes they made. And then I thought, while everyone's distracted by sea glass, I could make a unique challenge on my favorite region before anyone else does. Yep, Johto is my favorite for incredibly nostalgic and biased reasons. Soul Silver was the Pokemon game I played the most religiously back in the day, so I have a huge soft spot for it. Also, about 10 years later, I acquired the OG Silver and even got myself Stadium 2. You can tell I 100% it because this is what the title screen looks like when you complete Round 2. Here's some Piranha Plants and Mawiles around my busted-ass Wii to prove that, yes, this is me, I actually did it. Generation 2 added a bunch of new features, yada yada yada. Held items were introduced. It's Pokemon, I'm sure I don't have to explain what those are. The one that intrigues me the most is the Berserk gene, mainly because I think the idea of it is really cool, and it's the only one in this gen, at least I think, with a drawback. Any Pokemon that holds it will get a +2 in its attack, but it'll be confused for the entire battle. It's a double-edged sword, you're literally using swagger on yourself. I like that, but it's only in the original Johto games, it's not even in the remakes. So, because it's piqued my interest, I was like, what if I did a whole playthrough of Pokemon Crystal, but all of my Pokemon were holding the Berserk gene? Some battles can kind of be a coin flip, so let's add even more coin flips. Wait, I just realized I'm making a Pokemon video. Hehe, I can use my poorly cropped Mawile pictures. Just a couple of rules before we begin. Obviously, any Pokemon I use will be holding the Berserk gene. No if and or buts about it. I also thought it'd be cute to make my team themed around the Berserk gene. As the video progresses, I'll slowly introduce all the new team members. Also, once a Pokemon is sent out, they have to stay out until they faint. The Berserk gene doesn't reset itself if it's already been consumed, so if I put someone out, they get confused, then switch them out and put them back in, they won't be confused. The idea is to try to keep our Pokemon confused for every turn. I will make an exception to switch training, as long as the first Pokemon doesn't come back out to battle without the Berserk gene's confusion, I'll let that slide. It's just a small quality of life thing that keeps me sane while I maintain the pacing on my end. And in case it wasn't obvious enough, I'm not trying to do anything groundbreaking with this. This is simply me just trying to have fun with my favorite region. You'll get a better understanding of how this video's going to go once I catch my first Pokemon. But before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Me! So, upon booting up a new save file and looking at the starters, none of them really fit the vibe I was going for. I tried hooking up that universal Pokemon randomizer to replace one of them with my first team member, but for some gosh-forsaken reason I couldn't connect it even after following the instructions. So, to compensate for that, I just chose Chikorita because she's a good little bean and went into the tall grass of Route 29 to find the leader of the bunch. What? A shiny Mewtwo just out in the open must be my lucky day. Oh, and I just so happen to have a Master Ball. How convenient! I was gonna call it Listerine because that's what I named my Mewtwo amiibo, but Mewtwo shiny in Gen 2 is yellow instead of green, so... of course, I went with the immature name. Okay, why Mewtwo? Well, it's quite simple, really. This is Mewtwo's item. The Berserk gene can be found outside of Cerulean Cave. That's where you can find Mewtwo in red, blue, and yellow. Mewtwo is the genetic Pokemon, Berserk gene, and, well, Mewtwo has canonically killed people in a rage. That's pretty berserk, right? By the way, did you know, according to Bulbapedia, Mewtwo will always be holding the Berserk gene when encountered in the wild? You could never normally do that in the game, but that just proves my point even further. You may also ask, isn't Mewtwo one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game? Wouldn't it be a bit overkill to use it this early? Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Even though Mewtwo is a terrifying sweeper, the Berserk gene keeps it in check, especially with all the weak Pokemon at the start of our adventure. It may hit itself because of the self-confusion damage, and with the extra attack boost, the confusion damage is going to sting even harder. Add on to the fact that the opponent basically gets a free turn from that, so they're just going to wear us down even more. Also, Mewtwo is a special attacker. Although its physical attack is... oh my gosh, I forgot it was over 100. Looking at its Gen 2 learn sets, I think Shadow Ball is the only physical attack worth teaching it. So I think with its signature item, Mewtwo becomes more balanced for this point in the game. On an unrelated note, if you just so happen to see a small visual glitch on your screen... no you didn't. Anyway, before truly starting everything, Callaway the Chikorita helps Yor reach level 5 by switch training so it can become the proper level for a starter Pokemon. After that, we dropped Callaway off in the PC at Cherry Grove City so she can enjoy an early retirement, walked all the way back to New Bark City into Professor Elm's lab, and now we begin our adventure. The first route in Pokemon games are meant to be simple enough to ease new players into the basics, but the unpredictability of the Berserk gene is wanting to make me go berserk. Sometimes everything goes according to plan, like against this Rattata. On the first turn, we cleanly one-shot it for an easy win. Other times, we might hit ourselves in confusion so much that we faint to a hoot-hoot. Mewtwo's massive stats alone are not going to be enough to get us through this in one piece. Pokemon's got a lot of luck to it, and this challenge is nothing but luck. Also, for some reason I didn't actually put 2 and 2 together until making this video. The Berserk gene is a one-time use item, like a berry or the gems from Gen 5, so after every battle, we gotta grab another gene from our garment bag and give it to Yor. I thought that'd be a nice little bit of lanyap because I think that's more interesting than mentioning every single little battle that I fought. Bad confusion luck extends the length of all these fights, so you really do not want to know everything. I'll only go over the important ones. Speaking of which, our first rival fight is up. We hit ourselves in confusion 3 times in a row and lost the battle. Interestingly enough, even though we didn't win, the story still continues. Not every battle is going to be like that, so if our luck is going to be that bad, we might need to invest in more teammates soon so we have more chances to hit the opponent. Anywho, we get to name the rival now. Since I'm salty about the loss, I gave him an old person name. Here's the obligatory youngster Joey fight. We lost because Mewtwo hit itself 4 times in a row. Then in the rematch immediately after, we attacked turn 1 and knocked out his Rattata in 1 confusion. I'm just going to expect everything to go wrong because our fates are in the hands of the game. Fast forward to our first gym battle against Falkner. Mewtwo is level 10 at this point, so his 2 Pokemon would at least be 2 shots. But I was a little worried because they both had Mud Slap, an attack that lowers accuracy. So in addition to fighting confusion, we would also have to worry about hitting our moves if we get to attack. Lucky for us, we won on our first try. Mainly because of half-decent confusion luck, but also they straight up did not use Mud Slap, like, at all. I double-checked their movesets and yeah, they have it, but they just did not want to use it for some reason. On our way to Azalea Town, we cleared out Sprout Tower and defeated as many trainers as possible to gain some extra levels. Yor isn't really searching for power, but it could use the extra bulk to tank enemy hits a little better. That being said, some of these journeys have a lot of mandatory battles and we constantly white out. So, to lessen our trips to the Pokemon Center, I think it's about time to expand the team. So, who did I decide to be our second party member? My instincts immediately said Spinda because of its swirly eyes and the fact that it's teetering like a tipsy toper. It is confused 24/7 and it would have fit perfectly, but then I quickly realized it's a Gen 3 Pokemon. So then, that got me thinking, out of the first 251 Pokemon, who looks the most drunk? My choice is Sudowoodo. Not because of any Pokedex entries, but have y'all seen either of its Gen 2 sprites? The one from Gold looks like it's posing for a picture after one too many, and then the silver one. What is bro looking at? There's just no sober way to describe it. Welcome to the squad, Woodman. I hope you don't disappoint me. I spoke too soon. Actually, this works in our favor. There's a bug and normal gym coming up, so a rock type would definitely come in handy. Plus, he's a physical attacker, so he can take advantage of the attack buff from the Berserk gene. As long as Rock Throw doesn't miss. By the way, did you know that Rock Throw used to only have 65% accuracy in Gen 1? It was buffed to 90% in Gen 2, which I like to think is a complete lie because, oh my gosh, this move barely connects when he's able to attack. You know what they say, if it's not 100% accurate, it's 50% accurate. Also, after Union Cave, we found a shiny Caterpie. This was after I turned off all the cheat codes, so this is a full-on shiny. Huh. Nice. It's a shame we're not going to use it. I'm going to drop you off at the retirement home. Tell Callaway I said hi, please. After roughly an hour or two of bad confusion luck and Rock Throw missing, we finally arrived at Azalea Town. The first try at Bugsy's gym was almost humorous. I led with Woodman, and he decided to live up to his title as the drunk of the team by hitting himself in confusion 4 times in a row, causing him to get knocked out. Yor saw how embarrassing that was, so it locked in and hit all of his moves on Metapod and Scyther, and then hit itself twice to make itself faint. All we needed was one more good roll. For round 2, Woodman got his act together and soloed the entire team without getting hit once. Sometimes I like this challenge, sometimes I don't, but it keeps me on my toes, unlike the second rival fight. Woody didn't make it to the end, and I expected nothing less from him. Yor finished the job just fine. After bringing Farfetch back to the cutter, he gives us the HM for cut. Neither of our Pokemon can learn it, and we need to chop down a tree in Ilex Forest to advance. I wasn't planning on adding another Pokemon until after the normal gym, but considering the predicament we're in, it's time to adopt another family member. From my list of potential Berserk gene candidates, there were only 2 that were able to learn Cut. The first option was Parasect, because the parasitic mushroom controlling the host, and let me ask you something. Do you really think that mushroom is doing a good job piloting? They're painfully slow, with many exploitable weaknesses, and the only passable stat is a 95 in attack. Plus, the process of taking over the body would have made the host go berserk. The other option was Gloom. Not Vileplume, Gloom. I mean, look at him. The eyes are always closed and it's constantly drooling. Bro is zonked and hasn't had a cohesive thought in years. Eventually, Parasect is who I decided on. We caught its pre-evolution Paras because it doesn't evolve until level 24. Its learn set is much larger than Gloom's, however, I regret to inform that even though it has access to Spore, the best sleeping move in the game, he will not be learning it for this playthrough. Stun Spore and Poison Powder can still do something even if we hit ourselves in confusion the next turn. Sleeping relies more on us doing something while the opponent is asleep, which won't always happen. Congratulations, Shroom Gene, you are qualified to be our main status inflictor. I did the best I could to switch train the new recruit before the next gym, but he was still very underleveled, not to mention his low base stat total, especially compared to the other 2. As much as I hate to admit it, he's also going to be the sacrifice, the fall guy. He's gonna take one for the team if push comes to shove. Up next is the always terrifying normal gym. I'm sure we're all aware of the terror that is Whitney's Miltank. Deceptively fast, stupidly bulky, can heal with milk drink, etc. As of right now, everyone is below level 20, which is the cow's level. Even so, with the team and the moves we have, I think we can still beat her without grinding. So, on our 12th attempt, we opened up by hitting Confusion on Clefairy, who then used Metronome and actually pulled Fly of all moves. Since Yor is faster and has no way to hit her up in the air, the only thing we can do is set up Barrier to take minimal damage from Fly. Yor hits itself in Confusion twice, then Clefairy uses Metronome again and lands Lovely Kiss on it. It slept for 1 turn, then woke up the next turn to take out Clefairy. Out comes Miltank. Since we couldn't disable any of her moves yet, I decided to attack it with Confusion, which connects, taking out about 1/3 of her health. Miltank then started the rollout. And here is the best possible thing that could have happened. we hit a second confusion, and it confuses Miltank. Although she still hits 2 more rollouts and Yor knocked itself out, we can now safely bring in Shroomgene, relatively speaking, to spread paralysis. That sadly did not happen because both Pokemon hit themselves in confusion for 2 whole turns. Miltank, now with a sliver of health, snapped out of confusion and stomped our little crab bug. Woodman is last on our team, and he has one job: just hit low kick. The fat cow, being faster, drank some milk to restore half of her HP back, but Woody pulled it together, landed a low kick, and just barely took her out. If you keep this up, I might stop treating you like a punching bag. Ecruteak City is our next stop. On our way there, I mainly focused on training Shroomgene because he's still the baby of the group. Good news is he's now level 19 and he's roughly on par with the others and learned a non-normal attack move in Leech Life. It ain't much, but it's something. It's progress. He's growing. Bad news is the Ghost Gym is next, and I think it's gonna be rough. Morty has 4 Pokemon, one of which is a Gengar with Shadow Ball. Yor is the only one with super effective coverage, and it's also weak to Ghost. Shroomgene could realistically only use Stun Spore, and Woodman would have to rely on the inaccurate Rock Throw to deal damage. He might be able to do some silly stuff with Mimic if he gets lucky. Let's see how badly it goes. What do you mean Morty is absent? Oh, right. Before we can challenge the gym, there's some business at the Burn Tower that needs to be taken care of. First was our 3rd rival fight. Oh my goodness, it was awesome. Yor didn't hit itself in confusion for like 8 turns in a row and almost soloed the whole team. We also awakened the legendary beasts so they can roam around the region. Suicune actually has its own subplot in this game, and they even added a brand new character named Usain, who's dedicated to tracking it down. It has been a hot minute since I played Soul Silver, so I'm curious to see how this goes. Now, the Ghost Gym. Oh my goodness, it was so weird. It took like 30 minutes just to get past the first trainer, who had 5 Ghastlies! All of which knew Lick, so we're fighting confusion and paralysis. And I swear the evil spirits in this building were using their bad mojo on us cause we just kept hitting ourselves during that battle. Meanwhile with Morty, it only took 2 tries to beat him. Woodman only took out the first Ghastly, and Yor swept the rest. The gym leader was the easier fight. This challenge is something else, I'll tell you what. With 4 gym battles down, we can now use Surf outside a battle to reach Cyanwood City. While over there, we can battle the fighting gym and grab the medicine for the sick Ampharos and the Olivine Lighthouse. The problem is none of our teammates can learn Surf, so you know what that means, we're getting another teammate! From my list of potential candidates, only 2 could learn Surf. The first and far better choice is Gyarados, mainly because of its vicious temper and being known for its blind rage. However, Shiny Gyarados is not special anymore, because any Joe Schmo can get one in Johto. I want something new. So we'll be going with the alternative option, Psyduck. Because it has headaches. That is my reasoning. Also, Psyduck can learn 5 out of the 7 HMs, and yeah, he's going to be the token HM mule. But don't let that fool you into thinking that I won't take care of him or let him battle. It is a very important and respectable duty. Welcome to the family, Dolan. Also, while surfing, Shroomgene finally grew into a man. He convinced me to keep Leech Life on him. I thought he was crazy because it's only 20 base power in this generation. But he explained that it's coming off of his new 95 base attack stat, which is being further boosted by Stab and the Berserk gene, so with the damage being shockingly respectable, he gets to heal more off of it. Plus, it would absolutely destroy super effective targets. Ooh, now that's what I call thinking with your noggin. Boy, like the Parasect on your back, you're really growing on me. I have faith in you.
Yeah, I used to have a kidney stone. Everything passes eventually.
Well, I wouldn't say that. What you're bringing to the team is very valuable. Just, try not to screw up that much. We already have someone who does that a lot, you know? But, by the looks of it, I don't think that would be a problem for you. Suicune can be found in Cyanwood City. I forgot about that. Oh, it's leaving so soon. Just then, Usign demands to battle us in hopes to gain the respect of the legendary beast. The most notable thing about this fight is that we got to one-shot a Pokemon with Leech Life. Bet you never expected to hear that. Next on the list is Chuck at the fighting gym. The main thing I wanted to see is how far we can get before we send out Yor. We started with Woodman, who shockingly zoned in and took out Primate with 2 consecutive low kicks. Poliwrath is next. He outsped Woodman and used Surf to take him out. I sent out Shroomgene, and he's actually in a good position because he resists both of Poliwrath's attacking moves, Surf and Dynamic Punch. Since Surf is the weaker of the two, he instead relied on Dynamic Punch plus Hypnosis. You know, 2 moves with terrible accuracy, which, for the most part, thankfully worked in our favor. I tried to spread Poison, but couldn't land it until after taking heavy damage from a crit Dynamic Punch and Self-Confusion. Before going down, Shroomgene softened Chuck's final Pokemon some more with Cut, and out came Dolan. After hitting himself in Confusion, he hit Confusion on Poliwrath. Dolan was then put to sleep, but the poison is taking effect every turn. So, after tanking a Surf, Poliwrath died of natural causes, winning us the fight. I am very impressed we did the whole thing without Yor. Now to deliver that medicine to the Ampharos. While climbing the lighthouse, I made sure to train Woodman and Dolan because they were the only 2 with super effective coverage against the Steel Gem. After healing the sick Pokemon, Jasmine returned to her gym, so we took a shot at her. Woodman took out her first Magnemite with 1 low kick, then sent out her level 35 Steel? 35, what? Who returned the favor with Iron Tail. I then sent out Shroomgene next, whose only job is to land a Stun Spore, which he thankfully does on his first turn. He also landed 2 cuts before getting knocked out. If that was worth anything against a Steel type with a massive 200 base defense. Next out is Dolan, who despite being a duck is actually the GOAT because he landed a critical hit Surf on Steelix, knocking it out before it could set up Sunny Day. Last was her final Magnemite, who took a hefty Surf before taking out Dolan. And although Yor was cutting it close, it hit Confusion for the finishing blow, winning us the 6th badge. You wanna know the crazy thing? All of her Pokemon were in their 30s, and ours were still 27 and 28. That was an excellent performance. I think we should reward ourselves. You know exactly what I'm implying. Let's go find another team member. What am I looking for this time? Well, I've noticed Woodman has been picking up some slack recently, becoming a fine member of the team, so he should get some kind of acknowledgement for that. He's looking a bit lonely, being the only Johto Pokemon in the squad, so I think he should have a friend from his native region to keep him company. Ergo, my choice is Piloswine. Anyone seen Ferdinand? They have a bull named Angus who, like, for half of his screen time he has excessive amounts of hair obstructing his field of vision. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting. He's gotta be confused and inept about everything. We could also use a more tanky Pokemon, albeit with a very bad defensive typing, but hey, we can hit 9 different types for super effective damage thanks to his stab combinations. Plus, I can see Icy Wind and Mudslap being handy supporting tools. Piloswine doesn't evolve until level 33, so we caught Swinub instead. Say hello to Ganon. Next is the Lake of Rage, and originally I wrote down a bit where I knocked out the red Gyarados and was all like I said before, he ain't special, we don't need him. However, it soloed our entire team of 5 because of bad confusion luck. Have I mentioned how bad the confusion luck can be? Because, oh my goodness, the memes, they're correct. There was also the Team Rocket hideout right after, but bruh, it's Johto, so they were abnormally underleveled. It was so uninteresting that I forgot to record any battles in here. Silly me. While we're here, the Ice Gym was a first try victory. I mean, it's the Ice type, what do you expect? It's a bad defensive type, and yet the majority of them are slow hit takers. Anyway, after beating up Price, Professor Elm calls about the funny radio signals, which means we have to travel back to Goldenrod City to put an end to Team Rocket. It's basically just the Hideout 2.0, so there's no problem with it, and trust me, there really is no use of going over it either. What is a problem is Goldenrod being all the way in Timbuktu, and we ain't got time to walk that far. So I decided to call up an Uber to fly us over there. Oh my goodness, the trip was so awkward. The three heads just kept arguing with each other about the most minuscule things. It was almost driving me berserk. I'm pretty sure they drive each other berserk. Still, they really did put the fast in fast travel, so I put in a good review for them. Thank you, Serbitus. I'll be calling y'all again if I need your services. Just to be clear, no, they are not fighting with us. They have a full-time job to worry about. Besides, I have a much better choice for a final member. Oh, so, hey, before we can challenge the 8th gym, there's some Suicune story stuff to do in the Tin Tower. This wasn't in the remakes, was it? No, it couldn't have been. I remember very clearly Suicune being on the road above Cerulean City. Yo, this is some Crystal exclusive content. That's actually kinda sick. Anyway, we killed it and then ate its liver. Now it's time for the Dragon Gym, and I'm not feeling too hot about it. 2 of our team members would get one-shot by Kingdra's Surf, one of them is a child, and one of them is a Parasect.
What?
Although Ganon evolved, he doesn't have any strong attacks right now, so he's strictly a utility mon right now. If we want to beat Claire at this level, Yor is going to have to hard carry us. I also taught it Shadow Ball as a stronger physical attack, but self-confusion is still going to be an issue. I don't know, let's see how it goes. Okay, the game plan is to have Yor take out the 3 Dragonairs by itself. The rest of our team is either too weak or too slow to handle them. Plus, every single one of them knows Thunder Wave, and Yor is the only one who can afford taking a status condition. It was able to one-shot the first Dragonair, and then hit itself in confusion, which let the second Dragonair paralyze us. Yor was able to KO the next 2 with Shadow Ball, but not without taking heavy damage. Then came Claire's ace. Kingdra outsped Yor and hit Surf, but it miraculously hung on with only 1 HP. Not only that, Yor was able to fight off the confusion and the paralysis to hit a Shadow Ball, bringing Kingdra down to half health. And it got a special defense drop, which we didn't take advantage of, but it's cool that it happened. Yor was quickly knocked out the next turn, and out came Shroom Gene. Kingdra had the audacity to Hyper Beam him at full health, which didn't even come close to killing him. That just gives us more free turns to set up Stun Spore and heal with Leech Life. A second Hyper Beam took out Shroom Gene, but since this isn't Gen 1, Kingdra still has to recharge even after it KO'd. With only a sliver of HP left, I decided to go all in with Woodman, since he's gained my trust. He has at least 2 tries to connect an attack before Kingdra takes it out. He did not disappoint me, because on his first turn out, Woodman beat the odds and used strength to take her out, earning us the final gym badge. Oh right, it's Claire. She won't give it to us because she's a crybaby and makes us answer some questions in the Dragon Shrine before properly obtaining it. We just so happened to answer all the questions correctly, so the elders gave us a Dratini that knows extreme speed. As hype as that is, he will not be joining our adventure. Speaking of which, all that remains is Victory Road and the Pokemon League. I think it is only appropriate to fill out our last slot and finally have a full team of 6, right? But who should our final member be? I kept going back and forth between 2 options. We could pay our Dodrio Uber to join us as our only fast physical attacker. The flying and normal stab would also be helpful. However, Primeape makes way too much sense to pass up. The Pokédex entries state how absolutely enraged it is, how it beats up people if they dare give it a passing glance, and even how it kills itself with anger. Ya boy is in a blind fury 24/7. It may be Mewtwo's item, but Primeape is the literal embodiment of the Berserk gene. Lucky for us, I just so happened to find its pre-evolution swimming in the Dragon's Den. Everyone, let's give a warm welcome to Monkey!
Mankey, shut the f*** up!
While in Victory Road, I made sure to pick up the TM for Earthquake so we could teach it to Ganon. It would be very nice to finally put that attack stat to good use. Wait, is this actually the music for this place? Damn, this kinda sucks. Wait, I've also heard Dragon's Den was even worse. Let me hear it. Wow, that is actually bad, even for my standards. Let me change it real quick to something that I like. Much better. There was one more rival fight before we entered the league. I figured we could start by sending out Ganon first. He was so excited to use his new move that he fought off Confusion 3 times in a row, knocking out the rival's first 3 Pokemon. The Kadabra beforehand set up a future sight and it was going to strike at the end of the 4th turn. Ganon fainted before that, so I sent out Monkey to take the hit. Yes, I know putting the new recruit in that situation is a dick move, but him being 10 levels lower than everyone else meant he was the most expendable one out of the group. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. After Monkey was taken out by Haunter, Yor came out to one-shot it with Shadow Ball. Then it 2-shot the Golbat with Confusion, but not before losing half of its HP. Last out was Magneton, and although Yor was cutting it close, it managed to 3-shot it with Shadow Ball with only 9 HP left. It's crazy to think that we only used half of our team for that fight, but I don't think the Elite Four would be so kind, at least not yet. I know the champion's highest level Pokemon is 50, and the rest of the league are in their 40s, and our Pokemon are in the 30s, plus Monkey who's still in the 20s, unevolved. We have a lot of grinding to do. Okay, so everyone is now level 45. I have a feeling we can win at this level, given enough retries. I highly doubt Dolan and Shroomgene would contribute much, one being a baby, now with only water-type attacks, and the other has a very flawed typing with a very flawed moveset that's reserved for spreading status. But I can see them being useful against certain Pokemon. Obviously, Monkey became a Primeape, and I also taught it Iron Tail for the very unlikely occasion that it has to fight Karen's Gengar. Also, Yor learned Future Sight at level 44, and I was like, yeah, let's keep it. It kinda sucks in Gen 2, but there's also some very niche things about it in this generation that might come in clutch. I made sure to stock up on revives and potions before I entered. Damn, I didn't know they sold the good shit here. First is Will the Psychic Specialist. Woodman took out the first Xatu with Rock Slide, but fainted to Exeggutor right after. This was the perfect time to bring out Shroomgene, and he did not disappoint. He one-shots Eggy at full health with the 20 base power Leech Life. Yes, Eggy is 4 times weak to Bug. Yes, our move was boosted by the Berserk gene, but you just love to see a weak move like that completely destroy a tank. Jinx was out next, and I would have loved to see him do the exact same thing again, but he was quickly disposed of. In case her Ice Punch freezes, I sent out Ganon because Ice types are immune to being frozen. Jinx is physically frail, so we hit an Earthquake to take her out in one hit, but not before almost fainting to a critical Psychic. Ganon sadly killed itself in battle when Slowbro came out. Yor cleaned up the rest of Will's team with Shadow Ball, as Slowbro and the second Xatu were one-shots. Next is Koga with his poison types. Woodman is first again, and he crushed Ariados with Rock Slide. Fortress withstood a Rock Slide, but for the next 2 turns, Woodman was slowly being whittled down by Self-Confusion and Swift. He was able to take it out with Low Kick with only 22 HP left. Muck is third, who is usually very tanky and loves to use Minimize. However, Woody's HP was so low that Flail was fully powered, and it took Muck out in one fell swoop. Then came Crobat, who opened by using Double Team. Woodman used Flail, and it sadly misses. It used Double Team again, and Woodman closed his superb performance by hitting himself in Confusion. He was so close to having the character arc of the century, starting off as the drunk punching bag to becoming a solid team member, to almost single-handedly taking on an entire Elite Four team by himself. I was rooting for him, I was getting excited, I almost jumped out of my chair. Well, it's not really a chair, I'm sitting on the floor. This is my setup, by the way, but that's beside the point. I am so very proud of you, Woodman. As for the last 2, Yor took care of them. As for the Fighting Master Bruno, it's Bruno. What do you expect? We don't talk about Bruno. No, no, no. Last before the champion is Dark Trainer Karen, who was shockingly a first try win. Monkey opened up with a critical cross chop on Umbreon, of course it fainted. He then let his anger get the best of him when Vileplume came out. That last sentence is so wild out of context. Jeez, Yor followed suit until it focused in on Confusion. Murkrow was a one-shot with Swift because Murkrow is just that puny. Then when Houndoom was sent out, Yor hit itself in confusion, bringing it down to 0 HP. Dolan was able to hit a very effective Surf, but on the next turn, Karen used a max potion on it, and Dolan hit itself in confusion, which caused him to faint. I then sent out Woodman to hit Low Kick. Oh no, you're not Woodman? Now, Woodman is on the battlefield, and on his first turn, he outsped Houndoom and took it out with Low Kick. Last out was Gengar, who licked us before getting crushed by Rock Slide. And finally, the Pokemon champion, Birdkeeper lands. It starts off beautifully with Gyarados immediately falling to a crit cross-chop from Monkey. That was resisted too, the Berserk gene is cracked! Aerodactyl is next. He hit a very meaty wing attack, but we retaliated with an Iron Tail that also took it out in one shot. Charizard is out next, and before he can do anything, Monkey knocked itself out in confusion. Dolan, with the type advantage, surfed it to below half health after getting hit by wing attack. Charizard then tried to finish him off with Hyper Beam, but missed! It's only 90% accurate, I keep forgetting that. So we took it out with another surf. All that's left now are the 3 Dragonites. Lance sent out the one that knows Thunder and fries Dolan to a crisp. Knowing which one is on the field, I sent out Ganon so it wouldn't use an electric attack. Because of that, it resorted to Hyper Beam and almost took out half of our health. Although we did first hit ourselves in confusion, we used Icy Wind on the recharge turn to bring it to red health and lower its speed. Ganon then has a bad confusion roll and drops its own HP to 1, then gets obliterated by Hyper Beam. Talk about overkill. Out next is Woodman, whose strength took out the first Dragonite. Once the second Dragonite was in battle, it created a Blizzard and froze us solid. A second Blizzard took us to 10 HP, but we thankfully thawed out at the end of the second Frozen turn. It tried going for a third Blizzard, but we avoided it and responded by grounding it with a bunch of rocks. Last is the level 50 Dragonite. This one loves to spam Outrage. Woodman is deleted with that very move. I sent in Shroom Gene, hoping to land a Stun Spore on it, which sadly didn't happen because he hit himself after surviving an Outrage. However, this still works in our favor because the third Outrage defeats Shroom Gene. It will be confused the next turn. The final member on our team is Yor. It throws a Shadow Ball, bringing the dragon to half health. Then, Dragonite makes the mistake of setting up Safeguard instead of attacking us. The very next turn, we landed another Shadow Ball, causing it to faint. The champion has been defeated. Oh my goodness, we are finally in the Hall of Fame now. But I'm sure you can tell by how much time is left in the video that we're not ending it just yet. The entire Kanto region is unlocked as post-game content, which includes the 8 Kanto gyms, plus a secret final fight against Red. Don't get your hopes too high because it's pretty underwhelming. Red is fine, but most of the Kanto gym leaders are roughly on par with the Elite Four, so trust me, we really don't need to acknowledge them. There is only one exception. Two exceptions. First and most obvious is Blue, who is actually even stronger than Lance, so that's the only gym fight we're going to cover. The other exception is Janine. Honey, what are you doing? Why is your team in the 30s? Why is Ariados 33? Before we go there, let me show y'all something that can only be done in Crystal version. On the top of the Celadon mansion, we can find some graffiti drawn on the wall. And then, we decided to add a mustache to it. Why, we had so much fun doing it. It was a crime. Ever notice how a character named Blue has a red overworld sprite? Anywho, fast forward to the only Kanto gym that matters. The whole squad is level 53, that's 5 levels lower than Blue's strongest Pokemon. Everyone has the exact same moves as before, except Yor. I swapped out Confusion for Psychic. Pidgeot is always first, so Woodman is going to be our starting player. On turn 1, he kills 1 bird with 2 dozen stones. Rhydon is second, and wow, isn't he just the cheekiest son of a gun? We missed our low kick and hit ourselves in confusion, but instead of taking us out, he uses Fury Attack twice. Only when Woodman finally hits low kick did he use Earthquake to make him faint. Because of the 4x water weakness, Dolan is going to take care of the armored Rhino. He hit himself in confusion, but instead of using Earthquake, Rhydon used Sandstorm. One waterfall took it out the next turn. Third is Executor. In addition to hitting ourselves with confusion, the sandstorm also wore us out, causing Dolan to lose all of his health. During that time, Eggy was charging up a solar beam. Shroomgene just so happens to have a 4 times resistance to grass and tanks the 2-turn charge attack like a superstar. Although that's immediately followed by a self-confusion damage, plus sandstorm, plus an egg bomb, leaving him with only 6 HP left. The next leech life connected, and thanks to the sandstorm chipping away Eggy's health for 3 turns, it was enough to make him faint. Fourth is Arcanine, who immediately set Shroomy aflame. Now, I could send out Ganon for an Earthquake, however, Arc easily outspeeds it and one-shots it with Flamethrower, so instead we let out Monkey. He was able to fight off the confusion and land his 80% cross chop for a clean one-shot. Alakazam, who is second to last, outspeeds and knocks out Monkey with Psychic. Now we let Ganon shine. He takes a Psychic and strikes back with a powerful Earthquake for another one-shot. Last is Gyarados, and he Hydro Pumps Ganon into the Shadow Realm. Yor is the only one left. It hits a Shadow Ball, and Water Onyx sets up the rain. We hit ourselves, then took an extra moist Hydro Pump, nearly bringing us to red health. But we hit our second Shadow Ball, and earned our 16th Gym Badge. Oh gee willikers, that took about 2 hours to do. So, all that's left is the secret final boss against Red on Mount Silver, then we can finally say we're finished. As many of y'all know, Red has the most powerful team in the game, probably in Pokemon history. That's not even to mention his improved team in the remakes. Just like with the blue fight, I made our Pokemon 5 levels lower than Red's strongest Pokemon, so that's level 72. Well, strongest fully evolved Pokemon. Sorry Pikachu, you really don't count with those feeble stats. Also, because Red's highest Pokemon is not fully evolved, I thought it was only fair for Dolan to match Pikachu's level. Yeah! Speaking of which, the weakest link starts off the final battle, so I decided my first member would be... Yor? Wouldn't Ganon be a better matchup? Indeed, you are definitely correct on that. However, remember when I said Future Sight has very niche things about it? Well... In Generations 2, 3, and 4, and I quote, it also uses the special defense of the original Pokemon even if that Pokemon switched out in the meantime. So by that logic, let me give you an example. Let's pretend we set up the Future Sight on Shuckle with its massive 230 special defense. Then it switches out to, I don't know, a baby Pokemon like Elekid. Because I originally used the move on Shuckle, the damage is being calculated with Shuckle's special defense, which incidentally means Elekid, despite being far frailer, is going to take much less damage than it normally would from the attack. So if we used it on Red's Pikachu, the exact opposite would happen. If we can take out Pikachu before the Future Sight goes off, whoever comes in is going to take a massive beating. Let's see how that plays out in the actual battle. After starting the whole thing off by hitting ourselves in confusion, we set up the Future Sight. The very next turn, it was able to take out Pikachu with a boosted Shadow Ball. Espeon is next, and we were thankfully also able to hit it with Shadow Ball to take it out. I'm glad we could attack that turn, because the Future Sight shouldn't hit a delicate Pokemon. Everything lined up perfectly, because the one I wanted to take the extra powerful Future Sight, Big Fat Snorlax, is out next. Future Sight did not miss, and it took out about a third of his health. For those who don't think that was a lot, here's a quick comparison. In this example, the Future Sight is set on Snorlax, so now it's using Snorlax's massive 110 special defense as opposed to Pikachu's 50. Now when the move strikes... You should probably keep in mind that Snorlax has a colossal 160 base HP stat, so we're taking off twice the amount of damage when setting the move on Pikachu. The reason why I tried to set all this up is because he knows Rest and Snore. We want to chip him down enough to where the next attack destroys him so he doesn't sleep. Yor was sadly not up for the job, so it hit itself in confusion twice and was defeated by Snorlax's Body Slam. Monkey is our fighting type, so he's gonna be the one to do it. I decided to opt for the weaker Karate Chop instead of Cross Chop. If we weren't going to hit ourselves, we needed to make sure the move connected. With the Berserk gene buff, it was enough to make the giant fall. Now it's Charizard's turn. Despite having the type advantage, he almost got completely wrecked by Monkey. We hit Cross Chop for over half health. Then I chickened out because I didn't trust the shoddy accuracy, so we hit Karate Chop instead, bringing him down to a sliver. He then was overwhelmed by 2 flamethrowers. Dolan is next in line, and he took a flamethrower surprisingly well, although he did get burned. That's okay, he only has special attacking moves, so the burn did not affect the Surf that took out Game Freak's favorite child. Since we couldn't obscure Venusaur's accuracy with Flash, he had enough time to release a Solar Beam on Dolan, who of course didn't survive it. It's Ganon's time to shine. Venusaur starts charging up another Solar Beam, so we blew an Icy Wind to slow the plant's speed for the next turn. Ganon was now able to outspeed and take him out with an Earthquake. Last from Red's team is Blastoise. He set up the rain, and as we tried to use another Icy Wind, we ended up taking self-confusion damage. The turtle then took out our blind mammoth with a rain-boosted Surf. Shroom Gene is out, and the only thing I want him to do is spread paralysis. He nimbly avoided Blizzard, but took self-confusion damage. The next turn, Blastoise tried for another Blizzard, and missed a second time, so we landed a Stun Spore. Shroomy also restored some health with Leech Life, but the third Blizzard struck and froze our Mushroom Crab to death. Our final team member is Woodman. Considering his performance in the Koga fight, I think he's got this in the bag. Yee-hoo! Buddy, you've really proven yourself. Good job. Oh. I can't believe this. Our team of misfits defeated Red. Now, just how long did I spend doing this? 104 hours? Well, I did keep the game on in the background while I was typing up the script, so that might explain it. Welp, I had a lot of fun with this one. I wanted to try out a different kind of video again that also didn't stray too far away from what I usually make. Was it good? Was it bad? Anything I can improve on? Constructive criticism is always welcome. As usual, thanks for sticking around to the end. You know, it lets me know that I'm making a good video. Hope you enjoyed it, and for the people still here, y'all get a quick extra bonus. So I wrote down a whole list of potential Pokemon that could fit the theming of the Berserk gene. 3 of them, well technically 4 of them, did not make it into the main script due to me not having any way to mention them, so here they are. Dunsparce. Originally my drunk choice before I noticed Sudowoodo sprites. He looks like a simple, easygoing guy, someone you could have a beer with, you know? That being said, doesn't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed. Wobbuffet. I don't know, it's literally designed to be a punching bag, and it takes hits that should fatigue it a little bit. Delibird, specifically because of its signature move, Present. That move confuses me. Also, apparently, in Gold and Silver, the move was programmed incorrectly. I can't make heads or tails of this, but they fixed it in Crystal. Also, the 2 that weren't in Gen 2 that I thought of were Spinda, as you heard before, for always stumbling about, and Porygon Z, for being a glitchy mess. Also, here's the whole list of candidates and what I wrote down for all of them in case you wanted to see it. Before we close the video, there's just one last thing to do. And now, the Patreon supporters, brought to you by Maud. Lots of spaghetti and page fighting, Master Sodaruku, Fossil and Triff. Gianna, Tim, Archkrika, Mitsuru, Simp, and Tabitha, Harvey, Youssef. There's Augustus Renier, Stop Motion Stylish, Soma, Banambor, RT. Plus Kyle Prado, and Delta P is floating in Mississippi. There's Sonic Meerkat, and Irony Class with UFO Sunset Pilly. Elijah Boneham, and Luke and Z Matrix. Oh, this song fills me with glee.